Hi everyone at home or wherever you happen to be. I'm Miss Jaime and welcome back to another episode of Art Explorations for Kids. Today we're going to be tackling radial design. So what is radial design? Well, we can break it down into radial. So radial is something like a bike wheel, or you see it in nature, like in flowers. If you look at a daisy, the petals coming outward from a central point, that's radial. So a radial design basically just mimics that same idea. You have a central spot, and then you have design material that just emanates from that same point. So most of these end up being circular in design, and that's what we're going to create today. So we're going to take one of our full-size sheets of Bristol and make sure that you have something underneath that can get messy so that you keep a clean surface. We're going to be working with our oil pastels today. And just lay that on top. And what we want to do is just lay down color all over this sheet. And you can pick any colors you want. This part is not going to be very particular or specific because we're going to go back over it with another sheet and do a design on top. So I'm going to start off, I think, doing warmer colors, maybe some reds and pinks over here at the top. And you can lay these down in any direction that you want. We just want a whole lot of color down here. And make sure you put it in there nice and thick, because what we're going to be doing is creating a transfer. And in this case, a transfer is when you have something, a medium that can be picked up like oil pastels, and you have another object, like another sheet of paper on top, and you create pressure, and wherever the pressure you've applied is set down, then that's where the color is going to pick up, and when you flip the paper over, then that's where you'll have your design. I'm going to go in and add a little bit more of this darker red in here. And just have fun with it, you know, whatever your favorite colors are, or whatever color combinations you like seeing beside each other, go for it. So you can see I have my sheet completely covered in color, and I've done a nice thick application to make sure that when we go into this next step with the transfer, it'll transfer over nicely and give us our bright, colorful design on the other side. And I have my clean sheet. All right, so what you're gonna do is take your nice clean sheet of Bristol and place it directly over your oil pastel. Make sure that they're lined up. And then you're going to take your jumbo jet black pencil And we're going to start off by just drawing a giant circle. And you want to apply a good amount of pressure to make sure that that transfer is complete and that we're really getting that oil pastel on the opposite side of this sheet. And be sure to hold it too. You don't want it to slip because that will mess up the design you're drawing. And if you need a parent to help you hold it in place, that's perfectly okay. It's always a lot of fun to have more people helping with art. The more the merrier. Okay, and now we're going to draw a circle in the middle and another circle in the middle. So now we're going to start working on our outer radial design by creating an almond shape going from the middle circle to the outside edge of our big circle and from the middle circle to the outside edge at the bottom of our large circle. So much like the petals of a daisy, that's what we're going to try to imitate here. So I'm going to start at the top here of our outer circle and pressing down hard, come down with a curve to meet down here at our central circle, and then repeat that on the other side for our almond shape. And then we're going to do the same thing down here. And remember, none of this has to be perfect. We're still creating a radial design. And so now we have our two almond shapes going vertically. Now we're going to make them going horizontally. So repeating those same steps, we're going to come over from the inside circle, rounded edge to the outside. Again, applying heavy pressure. And from the inside circle, a curve under to the outside. And repeat on the opposite side. A curve over and a curve under. So that now that we have this cross layout, we can go ahead and add the these similar shapes in between each section here. So just repeating the process. And don't forget to apply heavy pressure. We want to make sure that we're getting a good transfer. Okay. And now we're going to go back in and add some circles along the outside of this large circle that we've made. We're just going to do 3 circles in between each of the almond shapes. So skip this almond shape and come over here and create 3 circles. Skip the almond shape, create 3 circles, and skip and circle, skip and circle. And just keep going. And you can see how that radial design is coming together. We have our central point and we have these design elements that are mimicking each other and repeating, all coming outward. So we are going to go ahead and add just one more circle in between each of these almond shapes. And I'm going to add some ovals into the center of our almond shapes. Now, as you get the hang of this, creating radial designs. If there is a repetitive pattern or element, design element that you would like to incorporate into your drawing, then go on ahead. Let's see what unique radial design you can come up with just based off of what we're doing here. And lastly, I'm going to come in here and to this very central circle, and I'm going to create a line going to the middle of each of these almond shapes that we've made, the large ones. So one coming from this central point to the middle of that almond shape, one down here to the middle of that almond shape, to the middle of that almond shape, middle there, there, and lastly this guy. And now what we're going to do is scalloping, and scalloping is when you do this motion with your pencil and you create what look like a bunch of hills. So we're going to do a single scallop here in between each of these lines. The lines are guidelines. And then we're going to come back after we've got our first row of scalloping, which looks a little bit like a daisy. We're going to add an even taller scallop behind those. Again, using those side lines as guidelines. So now we're done creating our transfer, and we get to see what we created. And this is the fun part. Lifting it up. It'll be a little sticky because we've been pressing on it so hard. So just make sure to hold down your paper that's covered in oil pastel as you pull up the masterpiece you've created beneath. And there we go. You guys have created your own radial design. So, if you are happy with your piece where it is and no need to go any further, then we can just stop right here. However, if you would like to take this radial design to the next step in our more advanced lesson, then stick around and we'll get right to it. So welcome back to the advanced portion of our radial design project. We've swapped out our oil pastels for soft pastels here. And we're going to go ahead and start adding more detail with coloring in the radial design that we have made with this transfer. So I'm going to pick the colors that really jump out at me, but feel free to pick the colors that you love. All of our pictures are going to be completely different because we, at the beginning of this lesson, put down completely different colors in completely different areas. So let's say over here I have a lot of pink. Maybe I want to put down some yellow. You may have a completely different feeling on that. So let's just go ahead and jump into this, and you can see what I'm doing and follow along, and then go off on your own path and see where it leads you. So what I'm going to do with the soft pastels is I'm just going to lay down a little bit of the color and not try to fill everything in, because the fun part is going to be, once we do that, use one of our favorite tools, our fingers, and go in and fill it in. Now remember, as you do this, that pastel is going to stay on your fingers, so watch what you're touching. Try to just be very mindful of where you're setting your hands and what you're grabbing. And don't forget, as you're working with these, you also don't want to end up getting them in your mouth. So just try to be mindful of having this pastel gripping to your fingers. It's not going to taste good if you end up licking it. Now, as you go to a different color and you're about to smudge it in, you can switch fingers, or you can have a paper towel or cloth nearby so that you can clean your fingers off in between working with colors. This way you don't have to worry about, mixing your colors and turning out with what was once going to be a really pretty green and ending up with a brown. What we're trying to do is avoid making muddy colors. And remember, you don't have to press hard on your soft pastels. Just letting them lightly glide across the paper will get plenty of pigment down, and you will have plenty to work with when you begin to smudge your colors around to fill in the different spaces. If you start pressing too hard, you can break your pastels, and you can also end up with too much of this fine pigment, and it will make the paper really messy, and it will cover up the nice artwork that you've already gone through the trouble of making. So I'm running out of fingers, as you can see, so I'm going to go ahead and clean them off with a paper towel. And so now that my fingers are clean, I can go ahead and start picking out new colors. So I'm happy with where my radial design is at the moment, and I think I'm going to call it. Now, if you want to keep going, by all means, please go ahead. There's you can expand outside of what we've done, color in some more areas if you'd like, or start a whole new project. And I encourage you guys, after having some experience with radial design now, go out and see what other radial designs you can find, like maybe pizza. So thank you so much for following along with me. I hope that you guys had as much fun as I did working on this radial design project together, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you all on the next Art Explorations for Kids.